As education, public primary schools head teachers are cautioning against reopening schools next Monday unless there are funds to facilitate preparations. The Kenya Primary Schools Heads Association chairperson Nicholas Gathemia is warning of chaos when schools reopen next week due to congestion. And as Shadrack Mitty now reports, the school heads now want the Ministry of Education to adopt shift learning in all the 24,000 public primary schools.
Between November and December 2019, national government administration officers, county government of Baringo and the World Vision ran a well-coordinated door-to-door campaign in Tiaty constituency, mobilizing families and the community at large to take their children to school. The outreach that covered 114 villages netted 4,131 children who enrolled in various ECD centers in Tuo, Napeikore, Sikin, Toporero, and Chesakam. The intention was for the children to begin school in January 2020. And whereas that happened, it only lasted for about 2 months before President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered all schools closed due to COVID-19. 125 children were enrolled at Tuwot ECD Center, yet for the 2 months they were in school, between January and mid-March, they came to school but went back home without learning. The school was built by Baringo County Government but had no teachers. Chemorir Assistant Chief Evelyn Kapkoyo says they had to rely on volunteer teachers. A few kilometers from here is Tuo Primary School, which received an additional 50 children. Nedi Jebet Kimgetich, the ECD teacher at the school, is busy taking her young learners through mid-morning lessons under this thorny tree, which barely protects them from harsh rays of sunlight.
3, 4, 5.
Majority of children here do not have books and writing material. They write their assignments in the dust. It is not easy bending or kneeling on the ground, marking their work which is written in the dust. Whereas the stories above were captured just before the first case of coronavirus was reported in the country, they are a pointer to the bigger challenges awaiting many public schools beginning Monday, January 4th, 2021. Social distancing, installing hand-washing points, and adequate supply and provision of masks for learners and teachers are central to the reopening process.
There are provisions to be provided by the Ministry of Education or by the Kenya government that we are not done as far as COVID mitigation is concerned. Unlike what was given to the secondary schools as part of COVID mitigation, 500 shillings. In primary schools, we are given nothing.
Yet it appears the government has greatly fallen short of meeting the necessary timelines. In fact, when President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered chiefs and their assistants to ensure every child reports to school, many expected the government to immediately release money to schools to facilitate timely and adequate preparations. Head teachers have cautioned against rushing to reopen schools on January 4th without ensuring all the necessary protocols are in place, citing congestion in public primary schools as the immediate challenge that requires urgent attention. To fix the problem of congestion and social distancing, the Kenya Primary Schools Heads Association wants all public primary schools adopt a shift learning system as the sure way of complying with the health protocols on COVID-19.
We as head teachers can also work miracles. Miracles in the sense that we have been given the privilege or the authority to organize our institutions the best way we can see that we can have social distance. And one way that we may think about is just by organizing shifting lessons or shifting and staggered lessons, staggered learning.
A looming exodus of learners from private schools to public schools is expected to deepen the crisis in public primary schools following the closure of more than 300 private schools, affecting more than 100,000 learners. Meanwhile, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha now says his ministry is facing a shortage of 1 million face masks for children from poor backgrounds ahead of schools reopening next Monday.
We have a system where we shall identify ourselves the children who need the masks, like the children in Kiandutu slums in Thika, like the children in Witameta slums in Nyeri.
Worried about managing schools during COVID-19, public primary schools heads want the government to increase a pupils' capitation from the current 1,420 to 8,077 shillings per each child. With a whole academic calendar lost to COVID-19, stakeholders want the government to invest more in the education sector in order to allow for full resumption of learning. There are fears that unless schools reopen in January, the entire education system may remain disrupted for the longest period. Shadrack Mitty, KTN News.
All right, let's now take a quick commercial break here on KTN Prime. When we get back, we revisit our top story on whether really the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission can stop candidates from vying in by-elections or any other election. There's been huge debate on the public space on this, so we have a report on the same and much more. Stay with us. This is KTN Prime.
Tofauti wetu